Hello, if you can afford the next 50 minutes to spend with us on this TV programme, it could save your life. Hi, welcome to Whale On. Tonight's a special on AIDS, and we have another one, the end of AIDS Awareness Week, next Friday as well. Tonight we're talking about safe sex, and we're exploring some of the myths and some of the inaccuracies about sex. But what we thought we'd do first is put to our audience here, a cross-section of young people, some sort of strategies, maybe, that you come across. For instance, you've seen somebody across a crowded room. You're instantly attracted to each other. What do you do next? Do you skirt about the bar until you meet them? Or do you take the more direct, more bold approach? Let's see, who shall we ask first? Gail down here in the front row.
Well, I tend not to do anything. It's a case of been there, done that, got the T-shirt, you know?
You don't bother?
No, I don't.
You don't bother at all? OK, well, let's play the game with me then for a moment, Gail, will you? Pretend you've met somebody, all right? You're talking, things appear to be going well, and given that you would like to go to bed with this particular person, OK, yeah, how might you go about finding if the feeling is mutual, finding out how that feeling is mutual?
I think you just know automatically whether the feeling's mutual or not. You know, you don't have to ask. If the feeling's mutual, it's there.
So it's a sort of chemistry.
Yeah, but it's certainly not something to be rushed into. I mean, I wouldn't sort of like rush and say, you know, like, gosh,
OK, you've been 3 months chatting this person up. We're not suggesting that you do it first time. All right, OK. Is that anybody think they'd like to change this, first of all? Would anybody do it any differently or not? No? OK, well, let's just play this game for a little while longer. You decide to spend the night together. How would you... And we'll stay with Gail, because, I mean, we know Gail now. We've met her. Let's stay with her. You've decided to spend the night together. How do you sort out the problems, you know, the practicalities of where do you go? His place, her place, your place, car? What do you do? Well,
for a start, I would never go to somebody's address unless I'd let an awful lot of people know where I was going, whether I knew that person or not. I'd never ever take anybody to my address because I'm actually...
No, you're obviously a very well thought out and thought out person. So let's pretend that you know this person.
Very well.
OK, and you decided that you're going to go to bed with this person. All right. Now, when you're back at their place or your place or wherever, what would you do next?
Probably have a drink.
You'd always have a drink? That's an interesting point.
Not necessarily alcohol, but I would sit down and relax, because when you meet somebody outside of your home environment, you're on neutral territory. The moment you go into one person's place or another, one person or the other for some reason may feel uncomfortable because you're within a domestic situation of which only one person is familiar.
Right.
So
okay.
I would sit down, have a coffee. If I still felt the same way after like half an hour or so, then I would get on to discussing the other practicalities.
Let's get on to you're discussing it, right? Look, we can move forward, jump forward, because of course we don't have a lot of time. So now you're in bed.
Yeah.
All right. And you've had a few drinks, maybe a couple of cups of coffee.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Now, I'm not asking for the I mean, do you still talk about it? Do you sort of fumble around? What do you do? Do you think about what you're doing at this point?
Well,
the point we're trying to get to
as far as I'm
do
concerned.
You think about it?
Well, yeah, because I'd have thought about it beforehand before I ever got into that bed in the first place.
You would have?
Yeah, and I would have discussed it too, yeah.
OK. I'm going to ask the audience now to put their hands up, and we asked you before when we weren't on the air. I wonder if I'll get the same response this time. First of all, I'd like to see how many people have had unprotected sex in the last 6 months in the audience. A few. How? And now, this is funny. The interesting thing here is that even our invited guests in the middle are deciding a little gingerly to put their hands up afterwards. Perhaps this would be a good time for me to actually introduce you to our guest. Susanna Dawson, of course. Everybody knows Susanna. She played the part of Jill in EastEnders. And from her experiences, of course, she has now spent How long has it been, Susanna, since you left?
Since I died of HIV illness on EastEnders. It's been 1.5 years.
Since that time, you've really devoted your time only to working for AIDS awareness.
I mean, basically what happened was Jill died on EastEnders, and the response from, like, the public, I mean, I think between 18 and 20 million people watched that episode, and basically just everybody kind of went wild. It was like HIV had been discovered, which of course it hadn't. I mean, HIV has been around for the last 10 years and more.
Not that I'm blaming you, but I mean, we are at this we find ourselves now at this particular stage in life of people perhaps turning off to it, don't we? Which is perhaps why this is a good, AIDS awareness is a good thing now again.
Yeah, they are. People actually think they've done it. I mean, well...
They haven't got the
They have, haven't they? Loads of people have done it and are still doing it. No, but what I'm saying is that people think that HIV has been covered and that it's not now a problem. And in fact, the infection rates are going up all the time.
Let me read this to you. More than 1,000 students will have slept with more than 20 partners during their time at university. And most will have had sex with at least 6 people during their 3-year course. The study by the university newspaper Oxford Student also revealed that nearly 1 in 7 said they had slept with somebody of the same sex. Now, that is interesting because those are people that you would assume were perhaps being more careful as well.
Well, I don't think anybody's saying don't have sex, are they? I mean, you know, sex is great. Let's not knock that. But safer sex, that's what people are talking about.
So we're not trying to actually tell people to become celibate. I mean, screwing is something everybody's going to continue to do and enjoy it. Some people don't like it. I know some people don't like it. Some of you will actually be doing it as you watch this programme. And a little later on, we will have a demonstration just to see how many of us are up to using a condom. So for those of you at the moment, you might like to stop, and if you can wait until the end of the programme, would be a good idea. Ian Poitier, let me introduce you again to my guest. Ian is the coordinator for the National AIDS Trust, and you're in charge of coordinating all information for National AIDS Week.
No, World AIDS Day.
World AIDS Day, sorry. Is this, again, are we really in sort of the mode now where we don't want to take in any more? We've had enough. We think that unless we are gay, we really are not going to be affected.
Well, the issue's been around for quite a while now, and I think people have got used to it as being part of the background of society. It's part of the landscape that you live with, so you deal with it. But the issue is still there, and World AIDS Day is there to remind everybody that it hasn't gone away. It doesn't just disappear overnight because, you know, it's not the sort of latest illness.
OK, Chris is next to you. Chris Woods is a senior registrar. I know he doesn't look old enough, but he's a senior registrar at St Thomas's Hospital, specialising in HIV, and you lecture in the subject. Chris, tell me the difference between AIDS and HIV. What is, you know, a lot of people don't... I've got a number of questions. We also asked the audience to fill out some questions, and I'll put these, but let me ask you that question first of all.
Someone who's HIV positive or has HIV is anyone who has the virus in their body. Someone who has AIDS is someone who actually has disease because of that infection, which has actually progressed to a certain stage where they get particular kinds of problems and infections that you wouldn't get with a normal immune system or the defence system of the body. So you can be HIV positive and have AIDS, necessarily so. I mean, that seems to be necessary. But you can be HIV positive without having AIDS and be well for many years, working. There's no obvious outward signs that you have it.
But most heterosexuals think that they're quite safe. I mean, somebody said to me earlier today, until some prominent heterosexual dies of AIDS, nobody is going to take it seriously.
Right. Well, a couple of points. First of all, in my own defence, I did put my hand up gingerly about having had unsafe sex.
I was going to take you to task, but not until later. But okay.
Just to briefly explain that, as I think a lot of people are doing nowadays, when I met my current partner, who will remain my partner, for the first few months that we were together, like at least 4 or 5 months, we used condoms and barrier methods of contraception, which also protect against STDs and AIDS and HIV. And we decided then that because we trusted each other, we were going to stay together, that we would then both get tested. And we'd allowed what we call the window period, which is the time that it takes to show up an infection.
3 years, is that, or?
3 months.
3 months, sorry.
The time it takes to show up in people who are exposed to the virus before the test become positive. It's usually about 3 months. So we tested ourselves.
You're both doctors, are you?
Sorry?
You're both doctors?
We both... Well...
No, I just... Wait, yes, go on.
We both work in the medical field, and because we had the same results, we decided that we would then be unsafe.
But not all of us can do that. I mean, we can't test ourselves.
But a lot of people are doing that.
Joe, let me just... Yes. We gave out these cards. Patrick, next to you, is from Rubber Stuffers, and Patrick Gale is going to be talking about Rubber Stuffers a little later, aren't you, Patrick? Yep. Yes, thank you. Patrick supplied me with a lot of the stuff we're using in the programme tonight. This card in front of me, I'm just going to ask you, Chris. Jo filled this out. She says, I have had unprotected sex in the last 6 months, albeit with my ex-boyfriend. Should I now have an AIDS test?
Right. A point I would make is that even within apparently stable relationships, the problem is one of trust. And I also work in a CLAP clinic, and a lot of people there come along having caught things off their partners who they have been trusting. So it actually doesn't necessarily, you have to really know your partner, and even then perhaps taking a slight risk to be unsafe even within a relationship. In terms of whether someone should be tested after a single exposure like that, they should really, if they're worried about it, come to a clinic, discuss it with the counsellor and make their own decision then.
But if they're not worried about it, they're not going to gain anything except that they should practice protected and safe sex.
If they're not worried about it, they should, well, they should be. I mean, they should be thinking about every sexual encounter, not just because of HIV, because of unwanted pregnancies and a whole variety of sexually transmitted infections, which we would deal with all day long.
Thank you all. For a moment now, you can relax, all right? I know somebody's worried here. Somebody somewhere's going to be worried about me asking them an embarrassing question in front of the television cameras. You can relax for a moment. We turn... Where are you? Over there, are you? So there's two prats over there waving like this, and because I'm looking over here. It's silly, but the camera's over there. The holiday competition tonight, let me just tell you that a competition a couple of weeks ago we ran for a holiday in Corfu. Sam Cook, and I thought he was dead, funnily enough. Sam Cook, apparently now living in Brampton, in Chesterfield. Congratulations to you, Sam. You are now on your way to Corfu. This week's competition for a holiday for two on the island of Kos, and it must be taken after September the 15th next year, so you have a long time to save up to go over there. All you have to do is phone the number, which will come up in a few moments, and give the right answer to this simple question. Who is St Andrew, the patron saint of? That's not how you spell pain. Who is St Andrew, the patron saint of? Is it England, Scotland or Ireland? Or anywhere else you can think of, ring 0891 900 007. You don't have to get on the phone while the programme's going. You can if you want, and you can ring that number any time up until midnight on Sunday. Music time now, and we welcome from the United States of America, often seen on Broadway, tonight singing live on Whale On, and soon to be seen at the Pizza on the Park on December the 19th, in fact. Please welcome Tara Hugo, accompanied by Warren Wills.
You're so late getting home from the office. Did you miss your train? Were you caught in the rain? No, don't bother to explain. Can I fix you a quick Scotch whiskey? As a matter of fact, I'll have one with you. For to tell you the truth, I've had quite a day too. Guess who I saw today, my dear? I went in town to shop around for something new. I thought I'd stop and have a bite when I was through. I looked around for someplace near, and it occurred to me where I had parked the car. There was a most attractive French cafe and bar. It really wasn't very far. The waiter showed me to a dark, secluded corner, and as my eyes became accustomed to the gloom, I saw two people at the bar who were so much in love that even I could spot it clear across the room. Guess who I saw today, my dear? I've never been so shocked before. I headed blindly through the door. They didn't even see me passing through. Guess who I saw today? Guess who I saw today? Can you guess who I saw today? I saw
Oh dear, not a dry eye in the house. Just a reminder before we take the break that you could win that holiday on the island of, I've forgotten for a few moments, it's terrible, isn't it? Really costs. All you have to do is tell us who St Andrew is the patron saint of. Who is St Andrew the patron saint of England, Scotland or Ireland? 0891 900 007. Ring that number now and any time up until midnight on Sunday. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. Tonight, Whale On is a special on... oh, I'm looking at the wrong blasted camera again over there. Well, I've got two, you see. It's like Daleks here. I must go for the one with the red light on, I suppose. Our AIDS special today, and then one next Friday as well. Straight over to Ian Potier, who's sitting in the middle, and... are you paying attention, Ian? Good. Yep. OK, now, Ian, you are the coordinator for World AIDS Day. And I mean, at the moment... Again, we said in the first part that people are perhaps getting just a little punch drunk. They're going to say, oh, no, not again. What on earth is it all for? I mean, I was reading in the World Health Organization figures that there are, by the year 2000, likely to be 13 million women infected with HIV. Is that true, or is that... I mean...
Well, I couldn't say if it's true.
But, I mean, these numbers keep being thrown at it. I mean, look, the government sent me this. They've actually... We'll talk to Jerry Hayes about it. This is hugely heavy. I mean, just...
Well, Chris is the person to talk to about the epidemiology because he'll know the figures more closely. But that stuff is not, it's not sort of magic. It hasn't just, you know, people just haven't sat down and dreamt it up. It's based on observed behaviour over the past few years and predictions based on those figures.
Chris, you, as we said before, senior registrar specialising in HIV, are we beginning to take things just a little too glibly?
Yeah, I think people should remember that worldwide, 80% of infections are heterosexually transmitted worldwide.
Yeah, but you say that, you see, and nobody knows, well, none of us know of, I mean, there are a number of celebrities who have died tragically from the HIV virus. They've all been gay.
Except there's some people in America now, like, for example, Magic Johnson, who is self-declared, he's not died, but he's got HIV.
Yeah.
It's also, in a sense, it's irrelevant, because there are, I mean, the figures, people just have to translate the figures into their own lives, really. And I think one problem with talking about figures generally is that one forgets the immediacy of HIV transmission, that is the act of sex, and we should be really thinking about the act of sex, and I think that's what these are about. Yeah. And it's that hot moment, really, that we should all be thinking about. I think also it can be used as an opportunity to broaden the whole thing into sexuality generally.
Of course, because Arthur Ashe in America as well has done a lot for...
Well, he was thought to be blood transfusion, but there's a lot more to sex than screwing, in terms, you know, and there's a lot of ways of having sex, like safer sex, as we're discussing, which perhaps people in the audience would like to demonstrate or discuss.
Well, they're not going to demonstrate it, Chris, whatever you think this programme is, but we'll talk about it. Susanna, sorry.
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, it doesn't actually make sense, if you look at it logically, to say that HIV is a gay virus or a virus that is attached to any minority group, because if you actually think about what a virus is, it doesn't know whether you're black or white, old or young, pink, grey, brown, what sexuality you are. You know, it's a virus, and we're all vulnerable to it. I mean, it's perfectly kind of logical, isn't it, really?
Okay, yes. No, I mean, the whole thing, though, is that we do feel, a lot of people feel that unless they are in what is considered to be a risk group, whatever that may be, that they're not going to get it. I've got a question here. We've got a lot of questions from the audience. This is from someone who wants to know, are heterosexual women at risk as much as, for example, gay men?
The risks in this country, sorry, are much smaller. They're much smaller, but the heterosexual women are still at risk of unwanted pregnancy, all variety of other infections that can be very unpleasant and at the very least inconvenient or tedious, all of which can be avoided by the same strategies, safer sex.
I think we just got to explain that a bit more fully as well. There are two sides to risk. There's a physical risk. When you have sex with an infected person, you are seriously at risk of infection. If you have sex with somebody from a group of people who are more likely to be infected, that's different. Where there's a social risk and a physical risk. And what's happening in this country is that it has started in the gay population, but it's moving to other populations. And that's why we have to keep
The thing is, though, we keep hearing that there's going to be this heterosexual explosion, and we keep waiting for it.
No, you don't hear about a heterosexual explosion. You heard that back in 1985, 1986, perhaps.
But none of the heterosexuals have been tested. If you actually compare the number of gay people that have gone out and got tested, have taken responsibility for going out to do that, and then you look at the heterosexual numbers have been tested, you'll see they're tiny. So what are we talking about? How do we know? How do we actually know
how many people
heterosexuals
in the
are
audience
HIV
have had an
positive?
AIDS test?
Good question.
HIV test.
Sorry.
Yeah,
how many people in the audience have had an HIV test? Can we get a shot of the audience? I know I'm pretty, but please, can we have a little look round here? Very few. Is there, Chris, I'm talking to you, is there any point, unless you consider that you may be at risk, and even if you consider you could have been at risk, as long as you now are practicing safer.
Well,
because there's nothing safe.
It takes one exposure to get infected. There are people we see in the clinic, I've seen in the clinic, who people working in clinics have seen who've had one sexual, one bout of sexual intercourse, and that can be enough. There are people who've had, high-risk behaviour not infected, but there are many people who've had very few encounters who aren't infected. The heterosexual risks in this country are low. They still are low compared to other European countries and certainly to the developing world where the risks are much higher. In America, for example, though it's a slightly different situation there, the leading cause of death amongst young adults in New York City is AIDS.
Okay, I want to just ask a couple...
The majority of those are heterosexual.
Right. I want to ask you a couple of questions that people have written down here, and we won't get time. So let me just ask you. People are concerned, e.g., could you get the virus from being in a swimming pool where other people who have the virus... I mean, people...
Absolutely not.
You can't?
No.
No way.
Sharing a cup?
No.
No way.
Toilet seats?
Nope.
No. Unless they're inserted.
How come it's always doctors who have a sense of humour? Have you noticed that? In that case, apart from penetrative sex drug use, what other ways?
Perhaps you should explain
transfusions.
Drug use.
Yeah, injecting drug use. There is some debate about whether there may be a very small risk from oral sex, which is going on. There's some recent publicity posters produced by the Health Education Authority.
I mean, is oral sex now considered to be dangerous?
My own feeling, I mean, everyone look at me, but my own feeling is that...
Well, you're the doctor, that's why we're looking at you.
I mean, no one's absolutely certain. It's impossible. It's very, very difficult to tease out if someone's caught HIV, whether they caught it out through intercourse or oral sex. The risks are clearly extremely low with oral sex, but we can't say that they're zero. I would suspect the risks are reduced if people aren't allowed to exchange fluids orally.
OK.
See what I mean?
And through breast milk as well?
Yeah, that's a risk.
Patrick, you have developed this little pack that people have been playing with today. Yeah. This pack is designed to make getting condoms a more normal thing to do. It's behind the bars at the moment in gay pubs, all right? But it is for gay people. It's not a heterosexual pack. Why isn't there something for heterosexuals? Why again, is it purely aimed at the gay community?
The reason why we've developed this pack is because we believe that gay men ought to have access to inexpensive rubber and lube. And this is going on now in 25, 30 venues in London, and we want to extend that. I'm gay, my friends are gay, you just feel you want to put something back and do something about it. It's run by myself and my colleague, Andrew, who at this moment is actually driving over to Holland to pick up 25,000 sachets of water-based lubricant to bring back here. And I've got a small army of volunteers here, Mark and Bran.
Can't you get them over here, can't you?
Sorry?
Can't you get that sort of lubricant over here?
We're looking for a good water-based lubricant. It has to be water-based lubricant. Oil-based lubricants will damage rubbers. These packs are really quite nifty. They're quite sexy.
I was looking across here at Jerry Hayes, the honourable member for Harlow and one of my regulars here, who's been looking at it and playing around with it for the full of this part. He's reading it here.
It's good, actually. It's very good.
It is?
Yes, particularly what to do with crabs.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. OK, well, joking apart, Hayes,
seriously,
why is the
very
government going to cut back on the money that it puts into AIDS
It's not
research?
actually. It's not at all. We're actually spending £250 million a year on AIDS, about 30 million on education. I think what you're
just
thinking
cutting
about...
it back.
No, we're not actually. We're not. You're thinking about the 1.5 million pounds we give to the voluntary organisations like the Lighthouse, Terence Higgins Trust. What we're doing is actually saying over a 3-year period we're going to keep the same amount of money, but we're going to encourage new groups and give them no more than £150,000. Now, this is under review at the moment, but we are not cutting back on money at all.
Chris?
What's been cut back, though, is sex education, and there are plans in 1994, I think, to actually make it possible for parents to withdraw their children from sex education in schools.
Can I correct Chris on that?
Yes,
because
certainly.
I
I read
see,
that 2 weeks ago.
Well, I was with the Minister the other day discussing this, because I'm Vice Chairman of the All-Party AIDS Group.
Right.
What we're actually doing, we've actually put sex, HIV, sex education, HIV and AIDS on the national curriculum. It was never there before. That's
Good.
the most
So that's happened in the last
important
month?
No, that's happened actually in the last Parliament, well, the last session of Parliament.
But people are going to be able to take their children out if they
Well,
want.
this is something we're still talking about. I'm worried about that. I'm very worried
Okay,
about that.
good. I'm glad to hear you are worried. Keep that
Can you
thought.
just
Let's go to
say that
Susanna
again?
a minute.
HIV and AIDS is actually on
The national curriculum
right
on
now?
sex education. We've put it on. It wasn't on before. It was in the science part. It's very, very important because this is all about education, Susanna. I'm sure you'd agree
Well,
with
that's
parents
absolutely
withdraw?
brilliant.
that.
To hear that.
But are you funnily enough, are they trying to keep this sort of quiet because of the people in the Tory party might be upset about it? No?
No.
Will parents be allowed to withdraw their children from sex education classes?
It appears so.
And how easy would it be to do?
appears so at the moment, and I think that's wrong. When you've got, never mind the AIDS side and the HIV side, when you've got something like 10,000 pregnancies under the age of 16, this is where you need decent education. So I'm worried about that proposal, and that's why we went to go and see the
Let me keep it on AIDS.
I'll
We'll come back
mention Clause 28 briefly. Clause 28 that states that local authorities can't actually promote the homosexuality as an acceptable lifestyle, which is absolutely to be critical because it means that
be as critical as you like.
for a lot of young gay men particularly, but a lot of all young people who, as they go through pubescence and puberty and so on, starting to experiment with sex, getting pregnant unnecessarily, getting STDs, and these hard-to-reach groups who we spend money trying to get them once they've left school. We can
It's interesting to note. It's interesting to note, Chris, that in the
hardest
Sunday
to reach
papers over the last
are the young gay men are the hardest to reach.
Over the last couple of months, there've been stories about gay ministers, gay politicians, and things like this. And far be it, I'm not going to mention anybody. Not going to mention anybody at all. I wouldn't even know who they were. But hopefully, that pressure will be brought to sort of... Clause 28 was a bit of a cock-up, basically, if you'll excuse the pun, but something should be done about it. And Jerry, I know, is trying.
We're looking at that, but the other thing we've got to look at, I know we've discussed it many, many times in this programme, but we've got to look at the age of consent. I know this is not particularly relevant, but that's another important area. And in fact, a lot of us are pressing for a free vote. It shouldn't be any policy, a free vote, matter of conscience for all MPs, all parties.
I want to talk to Susanna next, because Susanna has, with her friends at EastEnders, since the tragedy in EastEnders, and you've got a video, you've got a book that's coming out that's going to go into schools and going to be used, people can buy it, they can use it now.
Well, what was interesting about this, I mean, this is the video and the book, which, as you say, is going, well, it's in every store in the country now. They're cheap. I mean, that's what's important. So the schools can actually afford to buy these.
I've got to go to a break. We're going to come back and talk about that as soon as we come back. Oh, we're going to go to the music first. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Michael, you've been so quiet tonight. It's been absolute heaven. But Tara is back with us. She's going to throw those on the floor, sing another song. So please welcome Tara Hugo.
Life stank, life sucked, I was feeling washed up, a loser, a dog's dinner. Then suddenly transformation, my horse had lost, then he walked in, and then I knew I'd picked a winner. Now life's bewitching and I'm twitching, I surmise to my surprise that even I stopped bitching. Life's great, Life's wow! Watch me fly again, sky high again, and how I'm feeling frisky. I feel like trouble. You're my red rum, you're my hero. You're my daily double. Life's great, life's swell. I won't slide again, I'll ride again, and well, I'm feeling frisky, just like a sinner when I'm loving you. I'm on a winner. I can't lose when I'm backing you. You're my knight, and it's love that you wield. When I choose, it's a one-horse race. The opposition flounders, babe, as you storm past the field. Life's great, life's wow. Watch me fly again, sky high again, and how I'm feeling frisky. I feel like trouble. You're my red rum, you're my hero. You're my daily double. Oh, what a day at the races. Drunk on champagne, money down the drain, lining the bookies' pockets once again. And then he appeared, a complete outsider, a 66-to-1, a dark horse, but firm and sure, steady and secure. Oh, be my Valentine, let me be your rider. Life's great, life's wow. Watch me fly again, sky high again, and how I'm feeling frisky. I feel like trouble. You're my red rum, you're my hero. You're my daily double. Life's great, life's swell. I won't slide again, I'll ride again, and well, I'm feeling frisky, just like a sinner when I'm loving you. I'm on a winner. Life's great, life's swell. I won't slide again, I'll ride again, and well, I'm feeling frisky, dressed up at dinner when I'm loving you. When I'm loving you. When I'm loving you. I'm on a winner.
That was a composition penned by pianist Warren Wills here as well, so thank you, Warren, for that. Just before the break, a reminder how you could win that week for two people on the island of... You can't remember where it was, can you?
Cos.
Yeah, absolutely right, Cos. All you have to do is tell us who is St Andrew, the patron saint of England, Ireland or Scotland, and phone us on 0891 900 007. You can call us up until midnight on Sunday. 0891 900 007. Call that number now. Welcome back. Now, tonight, still talking about AIDS. This is our AIDS special tonight, and we have got our little piece we nicked from Generation Game a little later. But first, I want to ask the audience, not our panel in the middle of the audience, but the rest of the audience, all of you, if you were in charge of helping to make people aware of HIV, if you were in charge of the campaigns where you can remember the kind of the icebergs and the pneumatic drills and all those sort of very strange things that we had, is there any way you think you could do it better? Any hands shown here? Any people who have any views on doing it better than it has been done, I wonder? So everybody's exactly happy, everybody's aware of the... nobody is likely to at all. That's a yes.
Don't say it like that.
Sorry,
I think the main problem with that original advertising campaign, okay, was that most people thought it didn't refer to them. Because people look so terrible in it. It was all shot in, like, you know, sepia or gloomy greys and really gaunt-looking people. Just show ordinary people that you see in the street on your way to work, people that you see on the tube.
What would make you sort of take note, do you think?
When I was at secondary school, they did we had someone coming in. We didn't have the teacher. We had sex education, but the sex education teacher didn't come along and say, well, we'll talk about AIDS. We got someone especially in who made it more interesting, come in and told us everything. Like I said, a lot of people at that time was wondering, do you get it off? Do you know what you were saying? Do you get off eating in the same plate, if you get off kissing and things like that? And they come along and said, yeah, you would get off kissing if you had 9 gallons or something. So you drowned beforehand. And things like that. They made it seem really interesting. They got it all done. They made it all...
I think that was semen, wasn't it? Somebody said...
Saliva.
Oh, can I ask a question?
No, just a minute, just a minute. There's, just over here. We come... Yeah, just stay back with you for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that frightened you off, did it, or not?
No, it just made us know what AIDS was all about.
Yeah.
We knew that it was more to do with sex, not to do with someone's got AIDS, you've got to keep away from them. You've got to start going and get away from me.
I mean, if you knew that one of your friends had the virus, would you still talk to them, go out with them?
Yeah, I think I would. I hope I would, because I think that they're probably going through a lot of mental turmoil, and I'd probably want to help them out.
Does anybody in the audience think that perhaps we're not talked about becoming celibate or monogamous or something like that? Do people here think that perhaps we ought to reassess our moral values in life? Has anybody? Has anybody here ever decided not? No, I didn't think so. Right. Let me go back. That leads us rather nicely on to Gary Jacobs, I suppose. And Gary sitting here has been tutting
you today, James.
Tutting all the way through the programme. And we have some questions, Gary, which, because there are a lot of legal questions, joking about, there are a lot of legal questions surrounding HIV, more so than any other illness, really, aren't there?
Well, in fact, there aren't any laws surrounding HIV. It's just there's a load of discussion about the law.
OK, well, how does discovering that you are HIV positive affect you legally?
I would have thought it doesn't affect you any more than if you find you've got piles or if you've got mumps. It's another illness and you seek medical treatment for it, and hopefully the government continues to find a cure and a means to aid those who are suffering from it.
Can an employer legally dismiss you from your job?
Ordinarily, no. An employer could dismiss you if you had some illness that was likely to bring you into a dangerous position with the people with whom you were working. And I'm talking about a very strong likelihood. For example, somebody with salmonella working in a kitchen. Salmonella is a reportable illness. AIDS is not, and I don't believe it should be. OK.
How does this affect your insurances? I mean, we all have heard, I'm sure, that if we say we've been for an AIDS test on an insurance form, that the insurance companies, of course, aren't going to entertain you.
It's more involved with life assurance than insurance. If you're taking out a policy where it's a gamble by the insurance company that your death will involve them in a high payment, then I think you must disclose any illness that may bring about an early death. If you're suffering from cancer, if you're suffering from AIDS, then certainly, if you know, then you must tell them. If you don't know, you certainly don't go out and get a test just to prove that you haven't got it. OK, because if you do go out and get a test, they're going to bump up your premium anyway. They're not going to, probably not going to insure you because you actually went for a test. They will then assume you're in the risk area and that the person who you thought might have given you AIDS on one occasion may well give it to you the next week. That's pathetic. Well, it's unfortunately, it's to do with money, isn't it? It's very important to...
Are companies allowed to ask if you have had an HIV test or not when you go and fill out an application form?
It's of no relevance, and they shouldn't ask you anymore if you've got mumps, in my opinion.
And if they do ask you and you refuse to answer it, can they then sort of say, well, I mean, they're likely to say, well, this isn't going to...
I think that the answer must be to challenge the asking. The difficulty is that if you actually lie to get your way into a job, that's actually obtaining a job by a deception. You could always ask, and should ask, the employer why it is that he's asking that question. But unfortunately, I'm afraid to say, if the employer asks an unreasonable question, there's not a lot you can do.
Patrick was shaking his head. Patrick?
No, sorry.
You weren't, Patrick?
No,
I
was interested in what he was saying. Were you going to say something, Ian?
These are raising up a lot of issues. On this specific issue of employment, a couple of organisations, particularly the National AIDS Trust and the Terence Higgins Trust, are good examples where there are specific employers' initiatives. We're working with companies trying to encourage them to develop good policies. If anybody's worried about being in that situation, they should certainly ring the National AIDS Helpline. There's a free phone number, 0800 567 123. or contact any of those organisations if they want some help or advice.
If they contact us at the usual number, we'll pass that on.
I asked something about education. I think it is important. The young lad was talking about, I would like to know, were you given a book? Were you given something of substance that you could read after the lesson?
We were given leaflets.
Were you given a
made,
book?
like clear diagrams and that. We don't think we were given an actual book, because I think if we were given an actual book, not a lot of people would read it because it's so thick. People have got like a lot of homework to do, they've got other things to do. Not a lot of young people want to sit down and read a great big book on.
Are you frightened of AIDS? Are you frightened of the virus? Are you concerned about it? You don't seem to be. Not many people in the audience do, actually. You're not.
James, they need a book, I think, about their health generally, not just about AIDS. There are other venereal diseases. There are other diseases that people can catch. And I think that what's happening is that this particular illness is being singled out for a lot of publicity, I think primarily because it's known in this country as the gay disease, and there's so much anti-gay philosophy that they therefore feel it has to be taught as something far worse than any disease is.
I think it's quite interesting. I mean, I think you're absolutely right to say there are other sexually transmitted diseases. The difference with HIV is that you die. The majority of other STDs, and there, I mean, Chris will correct me, but there are a couple of ones which are important to point out as well.
Chris,
but HIV kills.
Right, OK. Chris, let me just come back to you, because we should make it clear before we come to the end of the programme. How naive are we generally? I mean, what sort of thing? We're talking about saliva here. I mean, is there a chance through saliva that you could pick up HIV?
The risks are, I mean, no, as far as I can say, know about anything, I'd say that the risks from just straightforward kissing are no. If people having oral sex, the risk are probably, maybe zero, we can't say it's zero. It's probably maybe slightly increased the risk if people are allowed to come in your mouth. But even with that, it's probably very low as well.
You'd have to drink an awful lot of it to actually make any...
Probably. They've got to cut in your mouth. But I mean, none of that's really proven. The most important ways by far are through sexual intercourse, particularly traumatic sexual intercourse, which is why the lubrication, which is also appropriate for heterosexuals, is such an important part of the rubber stuffers package.
And that lubrication can't be baby oil or any sort of lubrication you have at home. You have to get a specific water-based lubricant.
Water-based.
Oil-based will weaken and damage rubbers. A lot of people think that baby oil's okay. Crisco, margarine in Last Tango
margarine is
butter. But don't use it. It tastes nice, but don't use it.
Yeah. You can get flavoured water-based lubes.
You can?
Yeah, they're nice.
That's good. Yes. Are enough people coming to you for tests? Or are too many people of the wrong sort coming to you?
No one comes in my clinic room, but... I'm sorry about that.
You're a doctor, for goodness. Anyway, go on.
I think one real problem, this programme's going out sort of...
You're a consultant. What am I talking about?
In the early hours of the morning. But one problem is that with all sex education, there was some excellent television a couple of years ago with talking about safe sex, celibacy, the right to be celibate, the right to have non-penetrative intercourse. I mean, earlier this week there's a programme that stated that, that's roughly true, that less than a third of women actually have orgasm during intercourse. Right. The majority of women to have orgasm need direct stimulation, whether by their partners or themselves. So, for example, to blow the whole sexual education, or the whole idea of sexuality open, everyone should be talking about it. We're talking about it during prime-time TV, not during 1 week of the year or 1 week of the decade.
I agree with you.
But it should be allowed to come through to main-time TV.
Wear red ribbons.
Yeah.
Wear red ribbons.
I'm going to ask my volunteers to come out of the audience now. If you could all come out, the people I asked in the break, if they could come out, because I think we're going to finish off with, and Chris, you can judge this, and so can Susanna and Patrick, that putting condoms on is something we all giggle about and something we think we know about. It apparently is something that's very difficult to do properly. Am I right?
No.
I think it's, with practice, one of the easiest things to do, but it needs practice and practice and more practice.
It can be fun. You need it in your pocket. You need it with you before you go out. You need to plan to use it before having sex.
I mean,
okay, so let me just give these. Okay, right. Are we into groups of 3? Right, Susanna. While we're doing this, okay, one for you.
Oh, come on.
Right. Okay, face the front. Ow! Face the front and stop messing around.
Can I have a bigger one, please?
Okay.
Probably my end.
Can we be aware of the cameras? Could you move round into the light? Come over here into this part here. Come on, quickly. Listen, we've got time. Right? Okay. While we're doing that, Suzanne, can I hear from you over there? Can you move, or are you hardwired?
I don't know.
You're hot-wired. Stay there, Suzanne.
I have to stay right here.
while we're going to start while I'm talking to Suzanne, and we keep some cameras on, this is okay in the light, could you just get the condom on? Patrick, you're going to have to watch from there. Don't touch your microphone. And you're going to have to give marks out of 10 to see who can do it properly.
I can't see.
You can't see?
These are rect things.
Take your microphone off and come over here. You start now. Get going. We've got 1 minute until the end of the programme. Come on. You're all doing it. Suzanne, while they're doing that, remind me why people are wearing red ribbons
Well,
and
people
why they
should wear red ribbons all the time. We've got chaos over here in the studio. It's all this excitement with the cucumbers, isn't it?
This lady's
The thing about red ribbons and what's really important about them is you can't tell just by looking at this ribbon whether it has been in contact with the HIV virus or not. And that is exactly the same as when you look at a person. You cannot tell whether they have been in contact with the virus, i.e. whether they are positive or negative or not. So what you're doing is you're saying we're all vulnerable, we're all at risk, and we're showing support for those living with HIV.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Patrick, you're here. Have we got a microphone over Patrick? How have we done for this first couple? All right, my loves? How have we done for this first couple? Very quickly.
Did you pinch the end? Take out the air? It feels good. It feels that
it's all right. Is that quite good? You're quite... Nothing's happened on that. Well done. OK. On to the next... On the honourable member.
She pinched the end.
She pinched the end.
Definitely.
We're back with another AIDS programme and talking about how you live and work with the virus next week. Go on. Is that all right?
That's wonderful. That's a good 8. That's a good 8. That's a good 8.
OK. And over here, how is that?
I'd almost give that a 9. I like the fact that the air's gone out the end. Roll the condom right down the cock.
We're back next week talking about living and working with the AIDS virus. Join us then. Until then, have a nice weekend. Bye-bye. So who won? Who won first of all? Who won first of all? You won. OK. Yeah. Did you put that on
It's a very nice... I like this challenge. You loved it. You made